You're in the waterloop.
Welcome to Waterloop, the nonprofit media outlet exploring solutions for water sustainability and equity. I'm the host, Travis Loop. Athletes have tremendous influence on fans, teams, brands, and more. That power can be used to create positive change for the environment, as discussed in this episode with Chris Dickerson, a former Major League Baseball player and co-founder of Players for the Planet. Chris explains how he developed an interest in sustainability when surrounded by single-use plastic in a baseball clubhouse, and then launched the organization to create opportunities for athletes to take action. He also talks about the growing interest among players and the need for teams and venues to move faster.
You're in the water loop.
Players for the Planet is an organization that I started, Jack Castle in 2008, to bring and unite professional athletes for global change. And it's it's a series of initiatives that have been come by and led by players that have translated into team action that then translate into community action, because using the platform of professional sports and the influence that we have, not just from operations and from a venue standpoint of having a captive audience to educate thousands of, not millions of fans per year, but especially in the social media age where these athletes have so much reach, especially with activism, and be able to get the word out. But the biggest difference with some of the organizations I've found paramount that we have athletes that get out and get their hands dirty. So it's whether it's coming down to the Dominican Republic and providing opportunities for them to get involved, whether it's planting trees, waste sorting, picking up plastic, composting, food insecurity, environmental justice, tying on all of these in which they relate to sports and our surrounding communities and venues. And then, our big thing also is with brands. And as the millennial kind of market has shifted with the dollars that are being spent there, it's evident that they're starting to hold brands more accountable to how they manufacture, how their stuff is delivered. So we have the opportunity again with the amount of stuff that we go through, whether it's equipment, whether it's equipment or brands, we can have the platform to hold them accountable, but also to really market and promote real people that are doing really good things.
Waterloop.
For Chris, he first got interested in sustainability while playing in the minor leagues and being surrounded by single-use plastics. This spurred him to create change.
Just happened to come across an article about the perils of plastic and how long it takes to break down. Meanwhile, sitting next to a 50-gallon trash can of nothing but plastic. Summer months, we're taking 2-3 water bottles out with us during batting practice, coming back in for pregame meal, drinking 2 or 3 more bottles of water, going out for pregame, taking 2-3 bottles of water to stay hydrated. And at the end of the day, just simple napkin math. 40 people in the clubhouse, average of 5 to 6 bottles a day. We're one of 120 minor league teams, and with a third of the access to amenities and drinks and Gatorade and all, and beverages that major league teams have. So on any given night, we're going through probably 1 million single-use plastic water bottles. So that was it. So my basic initiative was I wanted to see how we could cut down on plastic by utilizing reusable water bottles. And I set out a press inquiry. They sent 50 usable water bottles, and the press picked it up. It blew up. I got called up 2 months later, and I saw the response from the fans, understanding that this was a pivotal point in understanding that the real threat and understanding that sports fans were all on the same boat. And so seeing the recycling symbols on the fan club signs, that's what, pushed me into finding other like-minded athletes to create a kind of a coalition to where we could use our presence on the field and off the field to bring more awareness to these issues.
Waterloop.
Since starting Players for the Planet in 2008, Chris has seen a definite uptick in interest among players in environmental sustainability and being part of the solution.
If you told me in 2008 that we'd have 250 athletes and doing work in the Dominican Republic and internationally, probably would have laughed a little bit. But it was a slow trudge for about almost 10 years, where there was, because of the politicization of the climate and the environment, it became very difficult to convince certain demographics in certain regions of the country that this was a real thing, and often they kind of shook it off. But now I think the key indicator of that trend is the athletes that were very skeptical and apprehensive to get on board now have families and understand the crisis that we're in, which is also unfortunate that it's taken this point for them to get them to notice that we're in really, pardon my French, really deep shit. And so we've seen them turn and be some of the biggest ambassadors, and it continues to grow. I mean, we have 5-10 athletes that reach out to us on a weekly basis, whether they're college athletes, youth athletes that want to do their own cleanups or learn how to get more involved in their own school or their campus.
Waterloop.
When it comes to teams and venues, there's a wide spectrum of action for the environment. But in general, Chris says there's a need for them to do more faster.
Still, I think it's a weird direct correlation. If there was some statistical overlap that as far as the adoption for players as to teams, I feel like this would be a little bit late developing. As if visually I could put it, if you have a slow climb of athletes like this, particular post-pandemic, when you saw the effects of us being at home and being responsible and the effects that it had on wildlife to the interest that was sparked. And then, teams, it's always going to be a little bit later where they have the idea, but actually making dollars and cents, which is kind of an unfortunate thing. In the end, we need much more buy-in from these teams. Seattle is is at the forefront, if not the global leader in sustainability, with Climate Pledge, Lumen, Seattle Mariners, all were, the OGs and basically like the founding members of this. And then you look what's happening in Atlanta with what Sophie's doing at the Hawks, what Scott did at Mercedes-Benz, and what Danielle's trying to do with the Braves is really tremendous. And we need more of this joint effort from teams to create an ecosystem within these multiple markets when you have four and five franchises in one place. And so I'd like to see more done in LA, I'd like to see more done in Miami, New York, all these huge audiences, rabid fan bases, again, captive audiences to really kind of tell the story of what's going to happen if we don't make a change. And those two particular areas are under really deep threat.
Waterloop.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Waterloop. To find all podcasts, connect on social media, and sign up for email updates, visit waterloop.org.
Waterloop, Waterloop, Waterloop.